I thought this would be a fun video to put together and showcase my physical CDs. I was just thinking of these the other day, and I was like, man, I haven't gotten into these in a long time. It's been years since I bought a physical CD. Um, this case is filled with compilations. I was a big collector of punk rock compilations, so we'll do that in another video. But let's go through this one. This one was my full length, just band CDs, and this was like my prized possession in like high school and middle school. It's dusty, so let's see what's inside. So we got MXPX, and I had these in order of release by release. So I got their first, second, third, I think, and fourth. This was the first MXPX CD that I got. No, actually, this one was the first one I had. This was like had like 20 something songs on it, and I remember a lot of people in high school had this one. And then the other big one was that slowly going the way of the buffalo. That was a big one. This one. So this was the first CD that I've heard of MXPX, and then I just fell in love with them, and I just had to try and get all their stuff. You know, a lot of kids don't realize these days how much they have it made with having just music at their fingertips. Living in a small town, it was so hard to come by these CDs. A lot of people give Hot Topic crap, but you know, I was around when Hot Topic first opened, and it was pretty awesome when it first opened before it got really super commercialized. And they had a lot of these hard to find CDs at Hot Topic, a lot of these indie punk bands and stuff. But so I got MXPX. So this was the last full length that I got from them. Then I got their EPs, their live, and this was the Move to Birmingham EP, and then this was like a compilation of their stuff. And then the Cooties was 90 Pound Wuss and MXPX guys. This was like their side project group. That was a great CD. I don't even remember where I got some of these, because some of these are like hard to find. And then of course Blink 182. Dude Ranch is my favorite Blink album. My 8th grade girlfriend got me this CD, Cheshire Cat, for Christmas, I think. Christmas or my birthday. I don't remember, but she got me that. Shout out to Amy. Then we got, you know, of course, their bigger CDs that came out. I stopped getting their music after this one. I didn't like their stuff after this really that much. I just liked the sound off of this one. This was like my favorite, and this one, of course, is a good one. And after here, it kind of, to me, it just, their sound kind of drifted away from what they were doing in the earlier stuff. Yeah, I got Buddha. This was like their first like demo CD that Kung Fu Records put out. I got that at Hot Topic for sure. I remember that. So, some of these CDs I got from a high school classmate. His brother had a bunch of CDs. I don't know if we just jacked them from him or we just got them and I never gave them back, but this was one of them. This was one of the early NoFX CDs. Easy. Of course, this one's the big NoFX album that I think everybody, Punk in Drublic, that was a big one. I remember getting this one in St. Joe at Sam Goody or something like that, up in St. Joe, Missouri. Sum 41. We actually, I think I got this signed. I'm actually missing that CD. I don't know if it's this. They saw them in Kansas City. Yep. Cone, or wait, Tony, I don't know what that says. I can't, but they put Madcap. I remember we had one of our, this is when we went by Madcap, and there's a sign right there too. We gave them a really crappy demo CD. But it was really cool. They shout out to us on stage. It was Sum 41 and The Offspring, I think. It was a cool show. But yeah, they shouted us out during their performance. Was cool. Sum 41 was a cool band. They got a lot of crap for some of these punk bands around that time. Just a lot of people, they weren't punk enough, or they sold out or whatever. Offspring was a big one that I really, before I even knew what punk rock was, I had this cassette tape, Smash, and just loved, this is like one of my favorite all-time favorite albums, Offspring Smash. So, got those, Splinter, I jacked this from my parents, Guttermouth. So I got kind of like Nitro, I think, section. No, goes to No Use for a Name. This is a CD that we jacked from my friend's brother. No Use for a Name. This was a great CD. Michael, bass player for the band that I played in, he had this CD, and just, this is probably like my favorite No Use for a Name album. More Betterness. And then Green Day. We got Green Day over here. I think one of these two, another high school classmate let me borrow it, and I just never gave it back. Corey, sorry about that, bud. I'm pretty sure this is, one of these was yours. And then of course Green Day Dookie. That was, I had that cassette tape when I was younger too. That was like a big one before I knew what punk rock was really. So these are their Lookout Records releases. And then Warning was the last Green Day album I got. Kind of tells you kind of around the time when I stopped getting CDs. This would probably be around 2000, yeah. So probably around after I graduated, I kind of stopped. I think everything was kind of getting to be the digital. And there's a Lagwagon. I remember getting this at Hot Topic. This is an early Lagwagon. This might be their debut album, I'm not sure. Blaze is a really good Lagwagon album. This was like one of their compilation CDs. And then I got Millencolin. This was a Hot Topic CD that I got. They're from Sweden, I believe. Great band. I actually found this one at the small town where I'm from area. Hiawatha had this at Walmart. This Millencolin CD. I was kind of blown away by that. And then of course High Standard, which is like one of the best Japanese punk rock bands. Ken Yokoyama, he did a lot of like solo stuff after High Standard kind of stopped, and a lot of his stuff's just as great as High Standard. Audio Karate, this is Kung Fu Bands, this is Ozma. This Ozma record is so good. This kind of like, they kind of had like a Weezer nerd rock kind of sound. And Strokes, Homegrown. This was a band that I can't remember if we heard of them. Yeah, Warped Tour 98, they had like those demo cassette tapes, and I think that's the first time me and a friend heard of them. Warped Tour 98 in Lawrence. And then they had a show with Blink-182 at Liberty Hall with Blink-182, and they were a great pop punk band. They were a Drive-Thru Records band. which was kind of like that that pop punk sound label. Then we got Unwritten Law. This album is my favorite Unwritten Law album. I think it's self-titled. So I have 2 of their albums. We got this Operation Ivy. These 2 albums were in that collection of my buddy's brother's CDs that I can't remember if he gave them to us or I just never gave them back or what. But that's both of these came from that Operation Ivy. This is kind of like I think it's like a compilation Operation Ivy album. The early Rancid, Saves the Day. This one, I got at Hot Topic, and I never even heard of this band. I remember back in the day they used to have like a little setup where you can like listen to the albums before you buy it. And I remember I listened to the first track of this, and I was like, oh man, I got to get this. And I bought it, and then they kind of like blew up a little bit after that. Everybody knew who Saves the Day was, and they're probably like one of my favorite all-time bands too. Saves the Day. Stay What You Are, Sound the Alarm. Yeah, I still listen to these guys a lot. I think this was a what was this? Is this in Reverie? Yeah, in Reverie. This is actually somebody like a friend of mine's CD. I'd never had this one, but I don't know. I think it was Haley's maybe. I can't remember. But I never had the actual cover art or anything. Ups and Downs, early recordings and B-sides. I think I have one of their acoustic CDs somewhere too. Then we got Lit. This was early Lit. This is the big one that everybody heard of. I like Lit. Lit was a cool band. I think they're like country now. That's Lit. Got some Dead Kennedys, Mighty Bosstones, Dynamite Hack. RKL was that early thrash punk type band that was on Epitaph. They're really cool. Great bass player. Rooney's great. Dashboard was like a cool band. Of course, Get Up Kids, The Big Bloodhound Gang CD. Then we got some Circle Jerks. This CD is pretty interesting. It says you get 2 punk classes for the price of 1, but it only had one. It has both of the albums on here, but it only has when you play it, it only has one of the albums on there. So it's like a typo. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, the classic Circle Jerks. Son of Sam. This is actually a side project of Davey Havoc from AFI, and I actually found this in Horton in the Electric Emporium. I was like, what the heck is this doing here? Because he just had like random stuff at that. It's kind of like an antique mall. So I bought that. It's kind of weird. The Sex Pistols. This Ramones anthology. What was this? Like a best of? Yeah, the anthology. Ramones. The best of these albums, I guess. Joey Ramone. I remember getting this a little bit after he passed away. Got one of the great Lawrence punk bands, KTP. We used to do shows with those guys. The Living End was an Australian rockabilly punk band. Really great. Seen them live. I think I actually had their set list from one of the shows that they had with the Offspring. And we got the Vandals. My stepdad had this CD. Kind of jacked it from him. This is like before it was like the Vandals that we know. This is like a different lineup. I think the only people that was in this band was the bass player, but I think he played drums in this. Let me see. can't remember his name. Let's see here. Yeah, drums. Joe Escalante. He ends up playing bass in the what, like the main Vandals. This is like the older lineup. I think they only put out like one album, and then I'm not sure about their whole history and stuff. This was like one of their earlier albums too. Fun band. Suicide Machines. This is a great ska punk album. Then we got some Beastie Boys. This is like their first. I believe this is like their first. License to Ill. Check Your Head. We got some Yellow Card, Ataris. This was like their big blow up album. This is a great album. This whole from beginning to end. The Clash. What was this? I think it's this one. This was like an import I got for my birthday from a girlfriend. So it's like has like different tracks, and the track listing's different than the American version. So Clash, these were my stepdad's too. I ended up just taking. Diesel Boy, a Fat Records band, that was great. Sloppy Meteors, we played a lot of shows with these guys when this album came out. They were doing a lot of shows, and Nick Grooms from Garden City helped set up a lot of shows with those guys, and they were really cool. I can't remember his name. He was a fun guy. We talked about like Coast to Coast and aliens and all kinds of stuff. Josh, that was his name. Great band to check out. I haven't heard. I used to follow a lot of these guys on MySpace, and I forgot the bands that we played with. But got The Explosion. We got asked to do like a private show that the 96.5 The Buzz put on. Was with these guys and Primetime Heroes, I think. It was like an invite. It was like one of the weirdest shows we ever did. It was cool because it was sponsored by 96.5, and it was like you'd have to give out tickets to go. It was a weird show. I think this is Alkaline Trio. Yeah, Alkaline Trio. Weezer. Newfound Glory. I remember hearing the first time I ever heard these guys was from this album. Was it this album? Was this the cover album? Yeah, From Screen to Your Stereo. It was from this album, and it was on 105.9 The Laser Lawrence radio station that used to play like alternative. And on Sunday nights they would play. They had a local show, but they also had like a punk hour or something like that, and they played My Heart Will Go On from this album. I was like, oh, that band's cool. That's how I first heard of these guys. Newfound Glory. And of course, they blew up. Funeral Oration. This was like a Hopeless Records band, I think. Yep. Which I just found out today that Hopeless Record bought the entire Fat Records catalog. So, it's kind of interesting. And we got the Queers. Great pop punk band that was on. These guys on Lookout? I think these guys were on. Yeah, Lookout Records. The great Screeching Weasel album. And then I'm missing that CD too. I can't remember. Moneen. This band was probably the most energetic, technical, but still played like a perfect live show that I've ever seen. Was Moneen. Saw them with Saves the Day at Liberty Hall. And then we got what was this band? Taking Back Sunday. And then this is a band that we played with, Eight Fingers Down. And then this is another band we played with that we actually kind of went on a tour with, somewhat of a tour. We had to back out because we didn't have any merch to sell, and we weren't making any money. So if you're in a band, make sure you have your merch before you go on like any kind of tour. This band ended up becoming Mayday Parade. So like half of these guys joined what formed Mayday Parade. So this was their CD. This is a good CD. I think the singer was his name. So you can see that. Let me focus. I don't know why I won't focus. Well, it's Derek Sanders, Brooks Betts, and was it Austin Moore? I don't know which ones became part of Mayday Parade, but the singer was the singer of Mayday Parade for sure. I know that. Defining moment. And then these guys were our friends from Lincoln or Omaha, Nebraska. They would come down and do shows with us in our small town. Great CD. They were great hosts and great getting us shows and stuff. They're great people. Effigy. These guys became from Topeka. They became Primetime Heroes. Some of the guys did, or one of the guys did. I don't know. He also did our what was his Rusty. Yeah, just Rusty. He became part of Primetime Heroes. He did our artwork for our CD. I think it's in here. We'll see that. He did all the graphic art and all that kind of stuff for us. The Transit War, we played with these guys at the Booby Trap, I think, Diversion 4.0. They were from KC, Lawrence area. Great punk band from this area. I think they put out a couple albums. This is a really good album. And then our friends Unleash on Friday. I got 2 of their stuff. They were great, in the scene, doing a lot of shows together. This was another band we played with in Topeka at the Booby Trap. We played at the Booby Trap all the time. It was like one of the places we can only get shows at. The Oats. I never really listened to this album that much, but a lot of bands that you play with, they end up just giving you their CD. O'Phil was a great local ska band. I don't know if they're from where they were actually from. If they were from Wichita, I can't remember. We got the Cars, Greatest Hits, the Pretenders, the Singles. This is some random stuff that I had. Pink Floyd, Blue Oyster Cult. I love this Blue Oyster Cult. I think this is like a compilation. Agent 59 was another band that we played a lot of shows with. They were from Kansas City, I think, originally, kind of this area, Lawrence. Got those CDs. Smash Mouth, Less Than Jake, Robert Johnson, some blues stuff. We got Rilo Kiley, Jimmy's Chicken Shack. I don't know if anybody remembers those guys. They had like a one-hit wonder. They were kind of a weird band. Chicks Dig It was a Fat Records band. Great pop punk band. You got 10 Foot Pole. I believe one of the members in this band was a professional baseball player, I think. Epitaph punk band. East Arcadia. These guys were from... Were they from Kentucky? They came and did they were on tour. So back in the day before like the internet is what it is now, it was really hard to do shows. You'd have to email people because there was no social media really. This is like kind of before MySpace was really big, and you would just find people from websites. And these guys found us to see if we can set them up with a show. They were on a tour. East Arcadia, and I can't remember what the other band was called. I don't know if I have their CD in here, but this is a good album. I enjoyed listening to this pretty often. Mustache Ride was another band we did. I think we did a show with these guys at the Jackpot. They were a great band. I can't remember. These guys were from like the East Coast too, somewhere over there. Mustache Ride. Then we got Phoenix TX, These guys were kind of had that Drive-Thru Records pop punk sound. Blink 182. They did a lot of shows with them. Then we got the Bad Religion. This is like probably my all-time favorite Bad Religion CD right here. Stranger Than Fiction. That's a good one. Got the Cranberries. Frenzal Rhomb. This is a Fat Records band from Australia. They were really great. Scissors. This is some random band that was handing out demos. We went to Chicago to see, was it Lagwagon and a Streetlight Manifesto, and I can't remember who the other band was, at the House of Blues in Chicago. And this band was handing out CDs. I don't know if I've ever actually listened to this one, Scissors Diva. And you got the this great NoFX. This was like a double album, 45 or 46 songs that weren't good enough to go on our other records. This is actually a good double CD. Then we got Misfits next to a Casting Crown CD. Then we got Descendants. This was like a compilation CD. Then we got Wakefield. I've heard of these. These guys did a show with Homegrown at the Bottleneck, and they were like a kind of like a commercialized pop punk band too. This is a good CD though. I enjoy this one, Wakefield. And then we got the Havoc. I have a ton of these CDs. If anybody wants one, let me know, because I have like cases full of these. We got too many of these. We've given them out. We never even charged really for these CDs. So if anybody wants some, let me know, because I got tons. So like Rusty from Primetime Heroes designed our CD for us, which is awesome. So that's our first CD. And I got, this is probably like the last CD that I bought. Smoking Popes. This was like a live CD. And then we got Midtown. I bought this at Hastings here in Lawrence. Remember Midtown and Jawbreaker. I remember getting this because I never really listened to Jawbreaker, and I remember a lot of people talking about them. And so I wanted to check them out, and I had to get this specially ordered. I think Todd Gordon got this for me somehow. I don't know if he worked at Hot Topic at that time or something, but I got this. I remember I got this specially ordered. Jawbreaker. We got Sublime. Everybody else, I saw these guys at the Granada with like, there was like 5 people there, and they had, was it Ozma was there? Ozma was a headliner, and these guys open, and this was like before their CD came out, I think. This is like a pre-release or something. But this, everybody else, they were great. Show Off. You got some Goldfinger. You got No Doubt's first CD. Lucy's Revenge. This was a local Lawrence pop punk band that we played shows with. More Dashboard. Punch. What was it? Drunk Punk. Drunk Punk was a friend of ours. He did the John. He did the cover art for the Lawrence, Kansas Punk Rock Compilation Volume 3. He did the artwork. I haven't seen him in years. He's not on social media, as far as I know. I got his CD, and I got some random CDs where I don't have cases for. I don't know how I got this Alistair CD. This was a pop punk band that was on Drive-Thru, and great pop punk band. Another Guttermouth CD. I don't know how I got these two. I don't remember. And then you got some burnt CDs, which White Stripes. I don't know where I got this White Stripes from. This was probably from Michael, Newfound Glory. Case of Bad Karma. This was a band that we went to high school. Member from this band we went to high school with. and they formed in Manhattan, I believe. Justin Sextro, I got his CD. Got a Boxcar Racer. Straight Out of Junior High was like a local band. I wish we could have gotten some shows with those guys. I think they're from Omaha, or I think they're from Nebraska. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's from. For some reason, I thought they were from St. Joe, but I think they're from Nebraska area. Really wanted to do a show with those guys before, but I think they broken up when we were like kind of doing a lot of shows at the time. Great pop punk band that was like kind of local in their region, I guess. Social Distortion. Oh, I got a Iron Maiden CD hiding behind there. We got Stereo 7. They were from St. Joe. They were like a ska band. We played with them at Charlie's in Holton. We got Eye as a Driver. They were kind of like a... I can't remember if this was the Punk Stock in Lawrence that we did, show that we set up that they played with. I can't remember where these guys were from. I think they were from 816. That's probably KC. I don't remember. They were definitely a regional band that we played with. You got Peter Tosh, and then you got some 311. 311 was like my 8th grade, 7th grade year. That was like my favorite artist, was 311. And we got Starbucks, local guy from Topeka. I think he does a lot of tattooing. And he still plays a lot of music too. And then we got Paul Flinders' stuff, Muse. That's what he called it, yeah. Part 1 and Part 2. He was a friend of ours, does a lot of artwork. Poster Boy Material. This was like a touring band that we played with at the Jackpot. They're a punk rock band, I believe. I don't think I've ever listened to this either. Lucy's Revenge again. We got a Pulley album. Maybe it's Pulley. Their band member is a professional baseball player. I think it might be Pulley, not 10-foot pole. 311. This CD came with their like home video thing. I got the CD with that. Like I said, I was a huge 311 fan. One of the songs on here is like one I liked it, but it's like in slow-mo. It's like weird, intentionally. It's like I want to hear this song like in regular speed. And then Grassroots, some early 311. This was the Mark, Tom, and Travis Show CD, which I have no idea where my CD went, but that's the insert. Some more 311, just I think it says Transistor. Then One Jack Short. These are the guys from some of the guys from Lucy's Revenge was in this band, One Jack Short. Got their demo. Then we got the Akanes. Hands Away. This is more Paul Flinders. And another My Raging Mind CD. And then Straight Light Run burnt CD. So that is all of my album CDs. So this was like my go-to thing in high school. So I pulled this thing out all the time to get me through my high school years. So that's that.